Our speaker this evening, which is long awaited, much anticipated, so there's no pressure there at all, Penny. Dr. Penny Walters, talking about demystifying DNA results. Now, we've already sent one or two questions through. I believe Penny will take some questions at the end if time permits. But Penny, we made you a co-host, so if you'd like to take over from here.
So tonight I'm going to be looking at demystifying DNA results and essentially mixing DNA results with a paper trail. Okay. So there's a 4-page handout, which I think I've sent to your facilitator. If you haven't got the handout, which is quite comprehensive, it's 4 pages, then you're more than welcome to email me. My email is penny_walters@talk21.com. So I don't do trees, and I don't help with finding out trees or mysteries. Although it's absolutely fascinating, I am actually a university lecturer, and all of my genealogy webinars are my sideline, so I don't have time to do trees. But I've got lots and lots of colleagues who do that as a professional job. So if you needed any help with your tree, you'd need to email me. And if I emailed you somebody's email address, obviously they would ask for a fee. So have a think about that. But you're very, very welcome to do that. Just for interest, might just be that you're interested, or it might be that you're thinking about Christmas presents. I've actually got a daughter that's already bought all her Christmas presents. So although we're in August, if you were thinking about buying a book, then I've got one book which is called Ethical Dilemmas in Genealogy. That's looking at some of the things that can inadvertently go wrong when you're doing a tree. And the other book is asking, why on earth are you even doing a tree? Why don't you go and have some other kind of hobby? And is it even a hobby? Because some of us start to get very, very interested, if not a little bit obsessed with it. So that book is called The Psychology of Searching. And basically, these 2 books are available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle. If you enjoy tonight's presentation, I've got a list of my presentations on my website, which is searchmypast.co.uk. If you don't enjoy the presentation, that's fine, just forget it. But if you did enjoy it, I've got loads of other webinars coming up. Most of them are free. So you'd be more than welcome to have a look at any of those. So how do we start doing a family tree? Well, for many, many years, most of us, I would imagine, have asked questions, tried to grab any elderly folk and asked people about their lives. What was it like at school for you? Who did Auntie Jane marry? How come this person moved abroad? And we've all utilised birth, marriage and death records. Most of us, I would imagine, have ploughed our way through censuses. We love looking through the records, and something that can bring me great joy is looking at maps. I do miss the old days sitting on the lounge floor with huge maps. And now you can get online maps, and some of them can zoom in and out. And I'm overjoyed with one set of maps where you can actually look at old maps and new maps next to each other. So maps are, I'm sure, in your repertoire as well. We've all had surnames which can sometimes give some indication. So, for example, in my family tree are O'Neills. You might expect them to be from Ireland. And I have got half Welsh and half Irish names. And any of you with ancestors from South Wales can just roll your eyeballs, because there does seem to be only about 4 surnames in South Wales. And every Rees has married a Walters or a Williams or a Davis or an Evans. And yeah, that's agony to try and plough my way through that. Also, if you're in touch with family, you get anecdotes such as so-and-so married so-and-so and went to live in blah, blah country, or you're sure there was a war hero, or, we've all got stories if you're in touch with your family. And all of these can give you clues for your paper trail. So this is actually my 2 trees. On the left is my family tree. But I was actually adopted. So on the left-hand side is my family tree, and on the right-hand side is my biological tree. So my mum was a mine of information, and she used to enjoy holding photos up to the light. She'd put little dots and the names of everybody on the back of photos. She and my dad somehow ended up with the birth, marriage, and death certificates for their parents and grandparents. And I've even got original birth, marriage, and death certificates from the 1830s. Absolutely amazing, original birth, marriage, and death certificates. So I've also inherited numerous Bibles, some of them in Welsh, and my dad's war tin, and all of these photos with half an essay on the back of every one of them. On the right is my biological tree. So there I am at the bottom, Penny Walters. There must be a scribal error because it says that I was born in 1963, heavens forbid. And basically, what you can see in my biological tree is my name, which wasn't even my name. And that's a whole webinar if you wanted me to come back and do a presentation on adoption. And there I am at the bottom with the wrong name and a load of question marks. So I often get asked to talk about being adopted, and I was giving a talk at Who Do You Think You Are, which was an international event held in Birmingham for many years, and I was giving a talk on being adopted. I was swanning around thinking I've made it. I felt really pleased with myself, and I bought a DNA test. So I knew about paternity testing, but I'd never heard of DNA testing before. I didn't listen in school in the biology or chemistry lessons. So basically, I didn't know anything about DNA testing. What on earth is that? I thought it was, injections or, giving blood. I just didn't know what it was. Anyway, so I was swanning around. Who do you think you are? There was a very nice lady at the ancestry booth. And I did know about paternity testing, which is where sometimes a man will ask the lady to prove that he's the biological father. So I just basically had my credit card on me and bought a DNA test. Subsequently, I have discovered that there are different DNA tests for family trees, which, again, I didn't know any of this. So what I am trying to do this evening is to do a bottom-up approach as opposed to top down. Whenever I go to DNA testing presentations, I actually don't know what they're on about. So what I'm trying to do today, and hopefully, is to come from a bottom up approach. So I'm trying to explain to you how I didn't understand things and explain to you how I have now subsequently understood it. So mtDNA traces the maternal line. I've done it in a stereotypical pink. So mtDNA traces the mother of the lady of the lady of the lady of the lady. So this is your maternal line. Y-DNA is passed down from father to son and is the DNA that goes from father to son to son to son to son all the way down. And generally, you could argue that the Y-DNA male line typically follows the surname. But on occasions, ladies have got themselves in a bit of a pickle with another man. And on occasions, the surname doesn't quite match the Y-DNA that it purports to be. So it's not cast in stone. But Y-DNA is looking at the father to son DNA. I'd accidentally bought autosomal DNA, never heard of it. So luckily, autosomal DNA analyzes both sides of the family. So this is great. I'd accidentally bought the one that suited me. So the mtDNA would have been way too specific for me. I'm not a man, there wouldn't have been any point buying a Y-DNA test. So I'd accidentally bought the one that did end up being suited to me. There are a variety of companies and there are 5 big boys, and each company has got its own advantages and disadvantages. So there's some good things and some not so good things perhaps, and all of the websites are laid out very differently. The 5 biggest companies are Ancestry, FTDNA, Living DNA, MyHeritage, and 23andMe. Some of them you spit into a little tube, which is about the size of a lipstick, and some of them you put like a big cotton bud into the side of your cheek. The average person can spit into a little lipstick-sized tube, but if you've got elderly folk who don't have much spit or they're on a lot of medication, then it might be hard for them to gather enough spit to spit into the tube. So therefore, the cheek swab is great. None of these tests involve removing blood, and therefore none of them are painful. So you're either spitting in a tube or scraping a cheek. So that can also be very useful if you've got permission and you are testing children. So children and very elderly are very suited to the cheek swabs, and that is ftDNA and MyHeritage. The test that I bought was Ancestry, but I've also uploaded my DNA to other websites, which I will mention in a minute. If you've got plenty of money, you could buy all 5. So about 40 million DNA tests have been sold, and if this growth continues, which is quite huge growth, it could end up being 100 million by 2028. This is a massive amount of people. More than 40 million people have done a DNA test. Something that's really exciting is that each person gets an individual report. So if you really like the top I'm wearing tonight, you could go to the shop tomorrow and buy the same one. If you really liked the table that I am speaking on, you could go to IKEA and get the exact same table tomorrow. If you wanted to buy 20 of these tables to put into your house or your workplace, you could buy 20 all identical. DNA tests test individually. Nobody in the world will have the same report as you. Even identical twins have got some degree of differences, the same as fingerprinting. What you get back in your DNA test results is your biogeographical origins, or you could argue it's your ancestry. Some people argue that you're measuring travel routes, but you are what you eat, and you are a physical representation of all of those who've come before you. So basically, you get biogeographical information literally tailored just for you. This is an indication of how the DNA databases have grown. So you have got a massive amount of DNA tests. So ftDNA and MyHeritage seem to be less popular than 23andMe, and Ancestry is by far the most popular DNA company. So have you done a DNA test? It might be that you want to wave to your fellow people sitting in the room with you. I can't see you because I've put you on minimal. But basically, have you done a DNA test? So you could wave if yes, you've done a DNA test. Those of you who are waving, you could put your hands down now. And those of you who haven't could now wave. Those of you who haven't done a DNA test could put your hands down, and those of you who are thinking about it could now wave. You could put your hands down now, and you might want to wave if you think, well, I thought she'd got a PhD in ethics, very cheeky to be asking such a confidential question. So you could wave if you thought that was a bit of a cheeky question. It's just for interest. It's not a scientific test. So what do you get with DNA testing? So this is where I didn't quite understand when I got my DNA test back. So I spat in a tube, gave the lady some money, and about 6 weeks later, I got a load of information and I really didn't understand it very well. You basically get ethnicity estimates and a map. Mine revealed Irish and Welsh. You match with other people. I completely didn't understand that because I'm adopted, and the only people I've ever met who I am physically related to are my children and my grandchildren. So I didn't understand that at all. Who are these people that I'm matching with? But the people that I matched with were given suggested named relationships. So it said things like third cousin and second cousin, and I just didn't know what they were on about. I'd never heard of the people, and I didn't know what a third cousin was. However, there's the potential for you to then collaborate with these people. Dear Jane, says that we're third cousins. You know, do you want to chat? So you can collaborate with people. Now that I've been doing this for quite a few years, I can write a far more sensible request. I used to say, I'm adopted and I'm really excited to meet you. And people would panic and start blocking me because they thought they were going to cause trouble. So have a think about the way that you email this stranger. The website gives you hints, and with your ethnicities, some of the ethnicities are very, very explicit. So it doesn't just say Ireland, it gives you regions. There are other tools which I didn't even have a look at because I didn't even understand the basic information. But now I know more, I can play with the advanced tools, and all of this is very useful information. This is absolute gold dust for adopted people because you are biologically related to all of these people in your matches. If you are adopted, and this takes a whole webinar for me to discuss, and you're very welcome to invite me back, I attached my DNA to my biological tree because theoretically, I'm not biologically related to my adopted family. So even though I've got a very thorough adopted tree, I have put my DNA onto my biological tree. Your biological family may well be searching for you. So this is really, really very, very useful for adopted people to be doing DNA tests, or if your parent or grandparents were adopted. When I got my DNA test back, it was talking about centimorgans. I didn't know what that meant, so I researched it. And basically, I found some definitions. In genetic genealogy, a centimorgan, or a map unit, is a unit of recombinant frequency, which is used to measure genetic distance. Well, I basically could hardly read the words, let alone understand what they were on about. So I still didn't quite understand, even though I researched what is this basic unit of measure, which is centimorgans. So this is an impression of what you'd get back. So on the left is your matches in descending order. I paid for a DNA test for my eldest daughter. I've got 6 mixed race children, and my eldest daughter is very light skinned, and she wanted to know how black she was. So we were looking for the word black in her DNA test. So in my DNA test results came the words Irish and Welsh. And when my eldest daughter did a DNA test, we were looking for the word black because she wanted to know about her mixed race side. We couldn't find the word black, and I'll mention that later on. But then not much later after that, my eldest granddaughter, who's got a mixed race mum, which is my child, and a mixed race dad, she said, "Can I have a DNA test, Granny?" So I said, "Okay, then, I'm really rich. I'll just walk around buying DNA tests." Anyway, so my children, because then each one wanted a DNA test because they were intrigued, and my twins wanted to know if they would come up as different, and I was interested as well. My 6 children range from 3421 to 3488 centimorgans. Well, I don't know what that means, but on the chart, it says that this person is my parent or my child or my identical twin. So I know that's my child, so that's okay, I can crack on. My eldest granddaughter came back as close family to first cousins. Well, I saw my daughter give birth to her, so that was really confusing me. And my grandchildren who have done DNA tests vary between 1567 and 1627 centimorgans. I still didn't understand, but if I look on the chart, it says that these people are my grandparents, my grandchild, my aunt, my uncle, or my half sibling. My granddaughter was really on the cusp of being a first cousin. So let's have a look at these useful metaphors. I'm hoping that I can get paid a little bit extra for this evening because I am, for the first time since you've left school, going to mention pie charts and Venn diagrams. So basically, if you imagine that if you have children, your child is half of you. It took two to tango, and each child is 50% or half of you, and each child in the world has got two biological parents. Any grandchild is a quarter of you because every child has got four biological grandparents. And therefore, theoretically, my grandchildren should be 25% of me. But let's remember, my grandparents are 25% of me, and my biological parents are 50% of me. So when you get your DNA test results back, if you are fragmented from family, be really careful when you look at the labels, because you might look and think, oh, I found my parent, but actually it's one of your children. So have a think about parents, children, grandparents, grandchildren. So that gave me some indication about other relationships. I did, in great painstakingly, make and photograph this cake. So if you imagine that you're a cake and you've got main ingredients, which are flour, sugar, milk, egg, and water, if you look in your bag of sugar, it's got a million little dots. So what I do is I pretend that centimorgans are the million little dots of sugar or the million little dots of flour. So basically, you are the ingredients of the people that have come before you. And if you imagine those little cakes that we used to make with raisins in, if you've got one little cake, it's got no raisins in. The average cake has got 4 or 5 little raisins in. And one of the cakes, which everybody used to get excited about, has got 8 or 9 little raisins in. So you are a cake with ingredients and maybe some raisins. And the Venn diagram shows that A plus B made the baby in the middle. So I hope that these are useful metaphors. If you are au fait with centimorgans, then you can just daydream for a couple of minutes.